Okay, y'all, grab your tea because this one is wild. So, back in the late 1990s, when Destiny's Child was still getting big, they went on tour with another R&B group called Jagged Edge. Now, this was a huge deal because Destiny's Child was just starting to blow up, and Jagged Edge was already known for their love songs. But behind the scenes, things were not as sweet as the music sounded. According to Matthew Knowles, who is Beyoncé's dad and was also managing the group at the time, something serious went down. He said he got a call from Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland, who were only 16 years old at the time. In that call, the girls told him that two members of Jagged Edge were harassing them while they were all sharing a tour bus. Yep, grown men, around 21 or 22 years old, allegedly bothering teenage girls on a bus. Matthew said he couldn't allow that kind of behavior, so he kicked the guys off the bus while they were in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Matthew even said he had a legal responsibility to protect the girls since they were minors. He acted like a protective father and manager by getting those older guys out of there. That sounds like a serious situation, right? But hold up, this story has another side, and it's coming from someone who was actually on that bus too. LaTavia Roberson, one of the original members of Destiny's Child, had something very different to say. She told her version on the show Unsung, and according to her, the problem wasn't Jagged Edge harassing anyone. Nope. The real problem, she says, was about LeToya Luckett's mum, who everyone called Miss Pam. Here's what went down, according to LaTavia. The group was somewhere in Louisiana when Miss Pam wanted to ride on the bus with the girls. But the management team said if Miss Pam gets on that bus, y'all will lose your job. Like what? Who says that to someone's mother? LaTavia says the guys from Jagged Edge weren't having it. They stood up for Miss Pam and said, "No way, you're not kicking her off the bus." They thought it was just wrong to leave someone's mother stranded like that. Because of that, Jagged Edge was kicked off the bus, not because of harassment, but because they defended a mother. She also said Matthew wasn't even in town when this happened. He was somewhere else and had to call in to give orders to the road manager. But even though he wasn't there, he still called the shots and had the group removed from the tour bus just because they wanted to make sure Miss Pam wasn't left behind. One of the Jagged Edge members said, "If it was your mum, you'd do the same thing." Now here's where it gets even messier. At that time, LeToya was dating Brian Casey and LaTavia was dating Brandon, both from Jagged Edge. So now people are wondering, could Matthew have made the harassment story up to hide the real reason he kicked them off? Or was he mad that the girls were dating older guys? Things start looking even more confusing when you hear that. Okay, so where we left off was that Jagged Edge got kicked off the tour bus. And depending on who you believe, it was either because they were harassing Beyoncé and Kelly, or because they were defending LeToya's mum, Miss Pam. But the drama doesn't stop there. In fact, it just keeps getting deeper. So let's talk about why Matthew Knowles might have wanted to paint Jagged Edge as the bad guys. Around the same time all this was happening, things were getting rocky between Matthew and the other two Destiny's Child members, LeToya Luckett and LaTavia Roberson. The girls were starting to ask questions about their money and how it was being handled. Yeah, they wanted to know where all their tour and music money was going. And honestly, who could blame them? But instead of getting answers, things turned ugly. LeToya and LaTavia ended up getting kicked out of the group. And get this, They didn't even know they were out until they heard Destiny's Child's new song, Say My Name, and realized their voices were no longer on it. Like, imagine finding out you've been replaced from your own group by hearing a song on the radio. They were so shocked that they filed a lawsuit against Matthew. In the lawsuit, they claimed that he tried to get legal guardianship over them, even though they were teens with their own parents. They also said that Matthew refused to show them any financial documents or explain what was happening with their pay. Basically, they accused him of trying to control everything, including the money, their careers, and even their lives. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, the girls also said they were being treated unfairly compared to Beyoncé and Kelly. According to the lawsuit, Matthew always gave more attention to Beyoncé and Kelly. He pushed them harder, gave them more spotlight, and made sure they were always front and center. It seemed like he was shaping Destiny's Child to revolve around just those two, and the others were slowly being pushed out. Matthew, on the other hand, said the decision to replace LeToya and LaTavia wasn't personal. He claimed it was all business and that he had the support of the Sony Music chairman, Donnie Leonard. Donnie allegedly told him that as long as Beyoncé and Kelly stayed in the group, everything would be fine. So, according to Matthew, the record label didn't care who else was in the group, just that those two were there. But fans and insiders weren't so sure. Many people believed that Matthew made the Jagged Edge harassment claims to distract the public from his own actions. Like, if everyone's talking about Jagged Edge being inappropriate, then no one's asking about why LeToya and LaTavia got kicked out, right? It's also worth mentioning that around this time, rumors were flying about Beyoncé's personal life. People were starting to whisper about who she might have been dating in the music industry, and some folks think Matthew tried to control that narrative too. By putting the focus on Jagged Edge, it might have taken attention away from Beyoncé's rumored relationships, or at least made it look like he was protecting her. But wait, the stories about Beyoncé's love life didn't stop there either. Now that we've gotten into the lawsuits, the money drama, and the bus chaos, let's get into the part of the story that had everyone whispering behind the scenes: Beyoncé's rumored love life, and why things may have been way more complicated than we were ever told. So, one of the biggest questions that still hasn't been answered is, why did Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland never speak up about any of this? Not the bus incident, not the firing of LeToya and LaTavia, not the Jagged Edge accusations, nothing. For years, they've kept totally silent, like none of it ever happened. And that silence made some people wonder, were they trying to protect themselves, or were they protecting someone else? Some fans think their silence made them look guilty, or even just as bad as Matthew. I mean, these were their childhood friends, right? But when things got messy, they didn't say a word. No defense, no explanation, just silence. At the same time, the public was starting to take a closer look at Beyoncé's early relationships. There had always been rumors about her dating powerful men in the music industry, and it turns out some of those whispers may have had some truth to them. Let's start with Jay-Z. We all know he eventually married Beyoncé, but way back in the day, things were already serious. Maybe too serious. Bun B, the rapper from UGK, told a wild story about the time Jay-Z called a video shoot where Beyoncé was working and had every man in the room kicked out just because of what she was wearing. He was being super possessive, even back then. But Jay-Z wasn't the only one people talked about. There were also stories about Beyoncé having a thing with rapper and actor Mos Def. DJ Cypher Sounds, who used to work with Mos Def, said he clearly remembered that Beyoncé and Most were messing around during the early days of her career. And he didn't stop there. He also claimed that Beyoncé and Pharrell were flirting heavy at one point. He even said Pharrell commented on how soft her behind was. It's giving messy. And just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, Matthew Knowles also got involved in trying to control these situations. Bun B recalled a moment when Matthew pulled Pimp C aside and straight up told him, "Please don't mess with my daughter." Like, it's clear Matthew was doing everything he could to protect Beyoncé's image, or control it. So now people are wondering, was all of this part of a bigger plan to build Beyoncé's perfect public persona? Was Matthew trying to cover up everything? The dating rumors, the group fallout, the tour drama, just to make sure his daughter's rise to fame was smooth? But here's where things take an even darker turn. Some believe Matthew's stories about Jagged Edge were never really about Jagged Edge at all. What if it was just a way to cover up the truth about how things really ended between the Destiny's Child girls? Or worse, what if there was more happening behind the scenes that we were never meant to know? And baby, this next part might just flip the whole story upside down. Stay glued and don't miss what comes next. Like, share and subscribe for more juicy celebrity news.